In this next section of the course, we're going to be starting to do what's called prototyping. And depending on definition, sometimes you might hear people refer to this as a sandbox as well. So if you're not familiar with a prototype, I have the definition from Wikipedia up here. But essentially a prototype is creating a first rough version of something so that you can test it out and make sure everything's working. So with video games, a lot of the time when you're creating a game, you come up with an idea and you may think that idea is going to be great and it's going to play great and feel great until you actually make a prototype that you can test out in your hands and feel how that game works. You don't really know if it's going to be fun or not. Something that seems fun on paper and design doesn't always play that way when you actually make it. So what a prototype does is you can make a rough version of a game and the game mechanics without putting all the polish on it. So you don't need the fancy art and the fancy visuals. You just have a rough playable game, and then you can tweak it as needed and come up with what makes it fun. And then you focus on the graphics and building levels. So what we're going to be doing in this section is we're going to make some scenes where we just make a prototype for our game by creating each of the game mechanics in that prototype scene and then testing them out. And then we're going to save each mechanic individually so we can just merge it into our game. That might sound a bit complicated when you're just starting out, but it's really not once we get into it. So you're going to see we can create something, say for instance, a platform that raises and lowers itself constantly. We can create that and save it and then just drag it in. So every time that we want to create a platform that moves up and down, say for instance like an elevator, we don't have to create that every time. We have almost like a stamp where we can just stamp that object right into our game. Something I'm going to mention a few times as we progress through this section is you're going to have freedom to actually go and experiment and make your own little things, use different art if you want in this section, but don't get too carried away with creating a level in this because as I mentioned, this is just our prototype scene. Now the way I'm going to teach a few things in this section aren't going to be the best optimal methods for creating levels. We're going to cover that later. This section is to teach you the core basics of using Unity in the editor. So there's a lot of tools that we're going to cover later that make creating levels much easier. The reason I'm doing it this way is so you can learn the underlying concepts. So as we're doing this section, if you've heard of other tools, for example, one is tile maps in Unity where it helps you paint pictures for making levels. We are going to use that later. But I want you to understand how things like snapping works and grids work before you start relying on tools to do it all for you. Because if you do that, once it comes to a game where that doesn't work for your game and you don't know how to do it manually, you're going to be stuck and you're going to have to start Googling and learning how to do some basics that should be covered right from the start. So that's why we're going to do it this way. And then once we start actually getting into the game creation where we design and create our levels, I'm going to show you a lot of really fun tools that make it very fast and easy. Okay, enough talk. Let's get to starting our game. In this video, we're going to start getting some art that we can use in our game. So let's go back into our project here. I'm just going to delete that square I made last time to demonstrate play mode. I'm going to show you a really common site to get free game assets. There's a lot of other ones out there that you can find, and there's a lot of pay sites where you can purchase assets as well. We're going to talk briefly about it as well. There's something you do need to worry about is the license of what you're allowed to do with assets. So I'm going to show you how we check and confirm that right away. Now the site I'm going to use for everything in this course is kenny.nl, and it's spelled just like in the browser here. Now this is a site where all of his assets are completely free to use. And in this case, you can actually distribute them and you can change them and you can do anything you want with them. You can actually use them in all your paid released games. So if you make a game with these assets and you start selling it, you can do that legally. That's all okay on this license. But that's something you need to watch because a lot of other places and even free assets, a lot of the time they have stipulations that you can't use them in games you're charging for. So you do need to check into that before you do anything with assets. So on this site, we have this link. We can just go to get free assets here. Now this site changes time to time. It may not look the same here, but you'll get the general idea. So you can click free assets here, or you can click assets at the top here. And then we have the different categories. So we only want to look at 2D. So I'm just going to click 2D here. And now these are all the different packs available from Kenny. So you do have a bit of freedom with this course if you want to use a different style. So you could use like pixel art or something like that. But if it's your first time making a game and you're just learning, you will want to get something that's a side view platformer, side scroller type pack like these. Trying to use something different if you're not familiar with how art in Unity works yet. So like say something like this isometric looking one, you're not going to be able to follow along with the course with that. So if you're brand new and you've never done anything, I would recommend probably getting the same packs I use just to be more precise with the course. So let's browse through here and let's find something we want here. I kind of have a general idea of what I want. I actually use Kenny assets a lot in my prototypes, so I'm pretty familiar with a lot of his packs here. But you can see here, even this one, it's kind of like a little scribble style. So you are open to try different things. You don't have to follow this course exactly. I want his platformer pack. And we are going to need a player character, so I'm going to use this one as well. So I'm just going to right click it and open it as a new tab, and then I'll download that once I have them all. As you can see, we have a lot of options here. So he has one that has pretty much all of the platform. Here we are, Platformer Art Extended Tile Set. Pretty sure this is the one. So if we look at it, now on this tab, you can see this is a sample of everything that's in this pack. So they're all tiles, and I'm going to show you how to work with those later once we get into the course. And then we also have this one. This is the same style, Platformer Art Extended Enemies. So if we check this one out, you can see these are all different types of enemies we can put in our game. So I'm going to get this one too, because we're going to use this little like sun buzzsaw type guy. We're going to use this bee. There's the spider we're going to make walk around. So we're going to get all these. So I have a couple tabs open here. If I go to the first one, I have a download link. And notice you have this get all in one package. That's one you can do where if you donate a certain amount, I think it's about 20 bucks, you can get a lifetime download package that has everything from Kenny. And then if you just want it, you can just click download. It gives you an option to donate. You can just click without donating. And now we downloaded that pack. So I'm going to do that for all of these. Okay, so now I have them all downloaded. I'm just going to click on the download link, open the folder. Okay, and they're just for archives. So if you use computers, you should understand WinZip and how to unzip files, but you should be able to just right click and extract it. So I'm just going to extract them all here. Okay, so now we have these 4 folders for the ones I picked. So if we take a look at one, if I open this folder, you're going to see we have a couple different folders and we have the license. So I just want to show you this here quick. If we open the license, notice it says license Creative Commons 0, CC 0. This is a type of license you're going to want to keep an eye out for. You can Google what they are when you see them and it'll give you all the definitions, or you can just go to this link right here. But what CC0 means is, CC0 is completely open. It's Creative Commons 0, which means anybody can do whatever they want with this. You can modify it, you can send it to other people. So if you ever see a license that's CC0, you're okay to do whatever you want. Any other license, you're going to want to go to this link or whatever link's provided with it and read the description of what it tells you can do. Now, that part does get confusing, and I apologize for that. There's no real easy way about that. Every asset you get is a different license. So you got to watch for that, especially with free stuff. When you pay for it, it's usually a lot more explicit. It'll tell you what you can and can't do with it right there. Okay, now that the boring license stuff's out of the way, let's look at this PNG folder. This is where all of our actual sprites are stored, and you can see they're kind of separated. There's a tile sheet here, which is this one. So it looks a bit confusing when it's in the folder, but let's go back to our download folder where we have all 4 of these. This is where Unity makes things very easy for us. So if I go back, here's my Unity project, and we're in our project view here with all of our folders. Now, we don't even have to make new folders or anything for these art assets. What we can do is let's just select all of them. So I'm going to select the first, hold Shift, click the last, and now I'm going to click and drag them in here. Notice the cursor changes to this one with a plus sign. If I release now, Unity is going to import those into our project and do everything for us. So depending on your computer and how much art assets you put in, this might take a little while. Okay, so now it's done. We see them there. I'm just going to close this browser window. And we have our packs here. Now, to keep my assets folder a bit cleaner, I'm going to select all these Kenny ones. So again, just hold Shift, click, that'll select all of them. And now I can just click and drag them into my sprites folder. So now that's much cleaner. When I'm up at the assets folder at the top level, I just want to see folders of things I can open. I don't want it all cluttered in here. So now I can open the sprites folder and now I see each Kenny pack. So let's take a look at this extended one. So if we expand that, see we have all these different styles. So each little part or component of that level system is a little sprite, which is called a tile. And what these do is they allow us to build a level. So you don't have specific objects. You don't have like a little platform. You don't have a big platform. We have small amounts that let us build whatever we want. I'm not going to show how to do that in this video. We're going to be creating levels right away, so don't worry about that yet. And if we look, we have all kind of different other stuff here. So let's look at our characters. So we can look at the adventurer. So we have two different styles of art. We have where this is each body part. So with this one, it lets us actually build the character. We could click and drag. So say if we put like, it's very small, I got to zoom in, but we have just a head, and then we could put in like a part of a body, an arm, and we could actually start making him out of little pieces. So we'll cover the basics of doing that later as well. But the main one we're going to use is this sheet here. So you can see it's got multiple different pictures on it. It's very small. You can see it down here. So here's some sprites of him climbing, him jumping, different things. We're going to use this. This is what's called a sprite sheet, where it's one image with all kind of different animations on it. We're going to get into using this as well, and that's pretty awesome to do. So that's about it for this video. That's how we get our art into it. So what I would recommend is follow along, include these art assets in your game. If you want, find some different ones you want to include as well. Just make sure they're a similar style where it's the side view, side scroller platform type packs. But pick whichever packs you want, bring them in, and then we're going to get ready and start creating our game in the next video.